All right, good people. All right, good people. We don't have a lot of time. Let's get to it. Let's mill and seed. Here we go. Remember how this goes? I give you a scenario. You freeze into a tableau. First one will be the beach. And mill and seed, mill and seed, mill and seed. Very good. Next will be the subway.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Shira Gubb, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Cambridge Public Library, and it is my real privilege to welcome you all here this evening for this very special presentation. Youth Underground, these wonderful folks over here, is an ensemble that creates and performs original theater that investigates social issues relevant to young people. Their pieces are created through a series of interviews with the community, and last year their interviews centered around the achievement gap, and tonight's performance of Circle Up was born. We will have the opportunity tonight to see and hear what is going on in urban high schools by listening to the voices of real students and educators who work with them as they describe the effects of opportunity gaps and implicit bias on their everyday lives. I'd really like to thank the Friends of the Cambridge Public Library for their support of this evening's event and of the library generally, so thank you, thank you. They have a table outside, and they'll be here after the program to get more information and potentially buy some books. So thank you, everyone, and please enjoy the program.
And mill and seed, mill and seed, mill and seed. Next will be the Red Sox, Red Sox. Very good. And then, guys, I'm really sorry. I apologize for that. My bad. I forgot to mention we have a guest entering our class today. His name is Ben. Please say yes and give Ben a warm welcome. He has a project, and he'd like us to give us a hand. So welcome, Ben.
As the nice man said, my name is Ben. I'm in my second year of grad school for journalism, and I'm doing an investigation on the achievement gap for an assignment, so I'm hoping I can kind of sort of like inconspicuously observe a day in the life of a typical diverse class. Though, of course, what is typical is totally open to interpretation.
Wait, what's the achievement gap?
It's like the gap between his eyebrows.
Yeah, okay. Why don't we let the professional answer?
The achievement gap is a discrepancy in academic outcome between white students and students of color caused by structural inequality and lack of opportunities in social institutions with lifelong consequences.
Very good, yes. Excellent. Now, I'm here to figure out exactly what that means. I'm here to listen, to hear stories. Your stories. You ought to know. There has been so much research and so many resources have been pooled into trying to find solutions to close the gap, but unfortunately with not many results. But I think with your help, we might be able to really shake things up, huh? Yeah? Get up. I'm just going to sit over here.
It's an improv class. We all pick.
The beginning.
The campus is huge. I have a feeling we're not in 8th grade anymore.
Fee-fee-fi-fi, full-full-fum. I smell smoke in the auditorium. Charlie Brown.
So, in 8th grade, kids would take bananas and make them into grenades. We'd put orange juice in it, mash it up, and then chuck the whole thing in the air where it exploded. Boom! Gross, it was lit. The teachers, for some reason, they really hated it, but it went on for months until it kind of figured out, kids got bored. But I'm a freshman now, and hopefully all of that is behind me. But then again, I am taking my entire grade with me.
Some teachers to just sit some students down and have a serious conversation. Just say, hey, cut it out. But what really works is when you threaten them with, if you ever do that again, you're never going to leave this school. That pretty much puts an end to it. Because who wants to stay and do 8th grade all over again?
I'm looking at all these kids talking and reuniting and everything, and I'm like, oh my God, I know no one. And I'm kind of hyperventilating, looking around at all of these faces and not recognizing a single one. I mean, this is my school now. I'm supposed to know people. And I can't even pretend to be talking on my cell phone because it's against the rules. This day is definitely a headache.
I'm looking around me and it's like the worst dream in a fever. I have no friends here. My brother said, pack your clothes, we're leaving for America in 3 days, and I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to my friends.
Old friends of mine pass me by and don't even say a single word, as if they have never seen me before.
On the way to school, I saw a daughter walking with her mother, and as I was about to pass them, the mom just like scooped her daughter up and held her really close. It's alright, that's how you are. Like I'm not trying to kidnap your kid right here on Cambridge Street.
No, I thought that once I got to high school, my parents would let me out at night. But with everything that's happening in the news, they say that you are the youngest and the darkest in the family. You have to come home because you could get shot.
I gotta shake it off. Shake it off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
The teacher is not even aware because she's facing the flag and I'm way in the back of the room. It helps me to stop complaining to myself and become more mindful of what's happening now. It's a long day with a lot of classes ahead, and I have a jumble of mixed emotions. But right now, I need to focus.
And the bass keeps running, running, and 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 running, running, and.
I wish my teachers knew how busy I am after school. I also wish they knew how wonderful I think they are.
I actually love one of my teachers. If I didn't love my parents so much, I would want her to adopt me. But I don't love what she loves. I'm not passionate about the subject she's so passionate about. I have a different passion. Running is what I really care about. I practice at least 2 to 3 hours a day. It's a big commitment, but it's what I love. It's my passion.
Of our family on the branches. After each kid presented, we could ask questions. Then it was my teacher's turn. And all the people in her pictures were black. I was just shocked, so I raised my hand right away and said, "Mrs. Johnson, why is everyone in your family black?" And she said,
"Well, because I'm black."
And it was true. I suddenly realized that my teacher was black. Whoa, what just happened? Did I literally not see color? Did I project whiteness onto my favorite teacher because she was the most awesome, best teacher ever? I was 8 years old. Was I just desperate to see myself in her?
I love the teacher, and I love the book, but the best part was I knew my teacher really liked me. We had to read 50 pages of this book, Things Fall Apart, in one night, which for me really is not a big deal. But but this is what happened. So after school, I go to the bus stop to wait for my little brother, and I get to read for like 10 minutes. And then on the way to the store, he wants to get chips. And then I get a call from my aunt, and she needs me to go to the hospital with her because my little cousin has a bad cough. She might need me to translate. So I go, and then we're taking a cab to Walgreens, and my little cousin is crying the whole time. And then I'm taking another cab to get home, and when my sister calls me, and she needs me to bring her money to work so she can get something to eat. So then I go, and right as I'm leaving her store, I run into my other brother, and he's like all upset because he brought his own basketball to the court and the coaches won't let him take it, so I go with him and I explain to the coaches blah, 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 and finally I go home and I'm starving, and so I make something to eat and I go to my room, open my bag to read, and I realize I don't have my book. I don't have Things Fall Apart. The next day I have to tell my teacher that I couldn't do the assignment because I lost the book, and she's like, well, now think, where did you leave it? How do I even begin to describe that day? There's no way. What do I even say?
For liberty and justice for all. For liberty and justice for all.
I'm not really feeling like walking. Really fast. To get from the basement of the arts building to the 5th floor of the French building before the bell rings. Even if you're in the best shape of your life, it's not going to happen in 4 minutes. Even if you don't have a locker, there's always some random kid who just wants to have a conversation about nothing. Even if you run, which you're not allowed to do anyways, you're gonna be late. Even if you're trying to fast, it's so noisy, with people yelling that you don't know what's going on anymore. And I hate starting my day off like this. It's just too much. And I very much doubt that teachers understand the chaos.
I sometimes share personal information with my students so they won't jump to the wrong conclusion about my behavior. I might say, my baby kept me up all night and I'm exhausted. Something like that. I want them to know if I have a little less patience, it has nothing to do with them. It also models that it is appropriate to share your feelings if your behavior is hard to interpret. Oh, another thing I do on the first day of class is I show them my resting teach face. It's been said that I look a tad annoyed or angry when I'm not, so I want to clear up any confusion right from the get-go.
My day always starts with the same chaos of what to wear. Clothes are scattered all over my room, a mess. And I know I will be late to school because I end up changing my outfits a lot. It actually is important, though, to make the right decision because if I feel like I'm slaying, I definitely will do better in my classes. Another reason I'm always late is because I take time to Instagram things along the way to school that I find beautiful. I guess you could say that I stop and smell the roses, but that excuse never seems to work with my deans. They want me to be on time and are not so much interested in my philosophy of life. Beauty was not simply something to behold, it was something one could do. Hashtag Toni Morrison.
It was right before vacation and my students were sharing their plans. Some were interning in labs, others were counselors at camp, or working in stores, some were taking classes. This one student said that she was traveling to South Carolina, and someone said,
Cool, warm weather and lots of beaches.
She replied,
We're going to visit my uncle who is in prison. And then we're going to visit my cousin who is in another prison.
There was total silence, and I didn't know what to say, but I knew I had to do something to show this student I cared and make her feel less alone and vulnerable after her disclosure. Cultural competency training did little to prepare me for the situation. In the end, I just asked her if she would like to share more about this visit with her cousins. And then we all just sat and listened.
Listen.
Time for some action. Time for some action. Scenario and images of video. There we go. If you just tune into your stereo.
I was passing a bunch of little kids on a playground, and they were all talking about the best superpowers. One kid obviously wanted Harry Potter's invisibility cape. And it kind of got me thinking that I sort of already have an invisibility cape. I mean, obviously I'm not actually invisible, but I sometimes feel like I'm only an outline. Like, people see me, and they see that I'm this tall, thin, blonde, white girl, and they make assumptions about me based on my outline. Like, they assume that I have a perfect life, that I have no struggles, that I have no problems, that my life is easy. And obviously my outline does give me certain privileges, like I know I'll be treated courteously in stores, or if I walk into traffic, cars will automatically stop, and I get a lot of attention from the male gaze, which is kind of a power trip, but also, like, really upsetting. But, you know, the main privilege that my outline gives me is being able to walk around school with a water bottle that some days is full of vodka.
I actually think getting stopped in the halls and asked to see your hall pass has nothing to do with your race. It's all about attitude. Like, this is exactly where you're supposed to be at. Hurry along, moving forward. Arms swinging as if you actually have someplace to go. Never wear your hoodie. Know what I'm saying? If you see some security guard or a teacher, just give them a nod. Nothing big, just a little motion. And keep on going. I'm pretty savage with it.
Dog child, nah.
Say my name, no one is around you. Say, baby, I love you, you ain't running game. Say my name, you acting kinda shady.
Teachers, they have a hard time pronouncing my name, and they don't ever spell it correctly. I mean, one teacher even told me I was spelling my name wrong, as if my parents were ignorant. You want me to put effort into your homework? Then you should put effort into saying my name correctly. Man, even teachers who do learn my name seem to completely forget me, or at least my name, when I no longer have their classes. You know, in the halls they'll just be like,
Hey, Tim, Jake, Barry!
and then I walk by and it's just,
Hi.
Why the sudden change? Say my name, if no one is around you. Say, baby,
Oh, Nate!
Whenever I'm introduced to someone, I always say my name very clearly and slowly. It is Natasha. I love my name, and it's actually kind of common back in the country where I was born. But everyone immediately starts calling me Natasha. Hello, that is not my name. Once, a teacher even gave me a whole lecture for not paying attention in class when she called on Natasha to answer some question and I didn't respond. Honestly, I just gave up. It's just way too much stress. Now I introduce myself as Cass. It's not my name, but whatever.
baby, I love you, you ain't running game. Say my name, you acting kinda shady. Ain't calling me baby.
They said the reason I wasn't getting a lot of interviews after sending my resume out was because of my name. A black name. Some people seem to even imply that if my parents had given me a more white name, then I would be successfully employed by now. My friends and I say that our black names prove that our parents were woke even 18 years ago. They didn't want to give their children the same name as the names from the white supremacist establishment. My mom blessed me with an original and beautiful name, because she writes somewhere, certain names will reveal people who say them to reveal the truth about themselves. So if you won't hire me because you think I'm black, then guess what? My mom was right. And I know the truth about you. Hashtag Wakanda.
I want all my teachers to know that I have a choice of whether or not to come to school. I'm 16, and if I ain't be knowing how important it was, I wouldn't be here. I'd be at home sleeping. It's annoying enough to wake up at 5:45, but then I get here and I have to listen to all these lectures about how education is all that matters. I'm here now. Stop all your whining and just teach me something.
I'm sorry if I seem uninterested or I'm not listening or I'm indifferent. Truly, I ain't got no business here, but since my friends are here.
One day, me and my crew came in early, like really early, to get extra help with this project before school. And we're all in my teacher's room at 7 in the morning, and you know,
I could be at home asleep.
but we're all here, and so our teacher is explaining what to do, and then this other teacher walks in the door and starts talking to our teacher like we're not even there. But then our teacher responds, "Excuse me, but I have to meet with my students right now." It was hot.
He always falls asleep in my class. He says he has to work nights so that he can help his family. Really? He's got more expensive clothes than most of the kids in my class. I even think of him as Mr. North Face. And I try to sit with him and tell him, hey, Mr. North Face, instead of working so you can have money just to spend on clothes, you should study at night and take notes in class. You know, North Face, even back in my day, never helped anybody in my hood get ahead. It was those A's and B's that made all the difference for me.
The class was kinda a little crazy, and I tried to throw off a joke or two just because it's my nature, and I just think that I like to keep the environment happy, so it's more fun. I think that kids learn better when they're in good moods. But then everything just goes out of whack.
I remember back in my day, some teachers would get so fed up with some students' behavior that they would just give up control. They would send off all the kids that didn't want to learn off into the corner to go sit together, play dice or whatever. I mean, what kind of an education is that?
I think some teachers need to just let it go. Don't force them to clear that I am just not having it today. You have all the power, so you should know when to pause and back off. Instead, you're all up in my throat to the point where I drop the F-bomb. Now I'm really in trouble, but really it's your fault too. But of course, nobody sees it that way.
Yeah, not only that, but I was going through things at home. I'm a sophomore now, and I need to work to support my family. Like literally every check that I get, at least half of it goes to my family for groceries and stuff like that. And it's not like I make a lot to begin with. So yeah, it's been tough. I'm going through a lot right now.
Look at her hair, look at her braids, look at her eyes, look at her nose, look at her fro.
Even though it's my last year, I still don't feel like I have the status that comes with being a senior. As a dark-skinned black woman, I feel like I always have to dilute my blackness to be more attractive, and it's not fair, because dark-skinned boys are always considered cool and hot. My color can even be a problem at home. When I'm introduced to people, they seem kind of shocked and disappointed by my appearance. My mom is really attractive. She's light-skinned and, well, I'm not. She also has looser curls than me, and my hair is like a 4C. We actually do look alike, even though sometimes people don't want to believe it. Like one time, this woman said, "Oh my gosh, it's so nice that you call her mom, even though she's your stepmom."
I keep hearing about the achievement gap. The achievement gap, and like, well, I'm trying to figure out what it means. Now, I'm thinking it's because of the achievement gap that my teacher just let me sleep through her entire class. Even though I noticed she always made sure that this one white girl was paying attention. So, like, at the end of the year, after the big annoying final, she asked me, well, how on earth did you ever pass? I was like, well, just because I was sleeping doesn't mean I wasn't paying attention. But, like, that was freshman year, and I would never fall asleep in class. Now, you gotta stay woke these days. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I've actually been hearing about the achievement gap too. You know, here's a random question for you. Instead of investigating how come there's so few black kids in these AP and honors classes, why not investigate how come all the white kids are in all these classes?
ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. On table, let's go, break me. ABC.
I was an intern in a middle school classroom, and there was this enormous brightly colored poster on the wall, which immediately caught my attention with the letters A, B, C in a column.
A is for always. B is for
B.
C is for
Cool.
no. C is for cute. No. C is for curious. Always be curious.
The teacher explained to me that she felt the best way to motivate all kids is to nurture and promote their curiosity. Later on, this boy raised his hand, or rather wildly waved it in all directions while yelping to draw the teacher's attention and literally just jumping out of his chair. He had a burning question. He was exuberantly demonstrating curiosity. The teacher immediately scolded him for this deviant behavior and moved on to the next kid who was quietly raising their hand. I kept thinking, couldn't there be a way to let him express his exuberant curiosity that wouldn't be punished?
Must be hard being that boy. Already on his way to being labeled a bad dude. It gets me thinking about a tough time my little sister had in grade school because of an early label that was assigned to her. Approach!
Blue Jays.
Approach!
Blue Jays.
Approach!
Robin.
I can't imagine schools get structured across this way. Back in my day, kids were scared right from the start to give their risk. My old brother and I, in the Blue Jays, absolutely everybody used. And along comes my little sister. Uh-oh.
Robin.
She's a Robin? What's wrong with little Susie? So, from very early on, she was made to feel that she was not going to achieve as well as someone else. No point in challenging her with harder books. Her smarts were fixed. Even though she was 6 years old, there was no point in ever having anyone expect her to rise from her downgraded status. Once a Robin, always a Robin.
Right from the start, I tell my students they are expected to work hard. Very hard in this class. CP stands for college prep. I will teach you so that you will be prepared to do college level work. In fact, I will teach you as if I am preparing you to attend my college, Emerson College, a great school. If you are not prepared to do college level work by the time you graduate, then your teachers have failed to do their job. Not only that, but taxpayers in this city who are paying for your education with the expectation that you can succeed in college should complain. In addition to your homework, I expect you all to read 40 books.
That's like a book a week.
Yes!
book a week. Choose any from the hundreds in the library or my classroom. Your choice. You can do this. It is so important for you to be able to understand, assess, evaluate, and criticize all kinds of opinions, metaphors, and ideas, and all kinds of different written material. The more literate you are, the more empowered you will be as citizens.
Yeah, now there's a teacher that has their students' backs. And on the subject of taxes, taxpayers should also complain that great preschool isn't available to everyone. I mean, why start with a system where some kids are already more prepared for school than others?
I tried to get my sister to help me with my language arts homework. I had to write like 3 paragraphs to support my thesis, but I could only think of ideas for one. My sister is in college now, and she said that she was working on a paper that is 28 pages long, so she has no time for my baby-ass paper and stop being so annoying. But my class is hard, and I need the extra help, but I have to babysit my little brother before school, and I have practice after school, so it's not that I'm not trying, but I just don't have time to meet with my tutor.
It's second semester, senior year, and I just want to chill. But my parents insist that I take another advanced placement class. And to make matters worse, my teacher is the type who really forces it, and it's almost impossible to get a grade above 90. I had already read The Great Gatsby and decided to not really care about the first paper and just basically hand in anything. Of course, my mom wanted to see my paper. Drama! She kept insisting that I do a better job. And that definitely wasn't going to happen. In the end, my father basically rewrote the paper. We got a B. My dad was really upset, like, that's not fair! This is definitely an A paper!
So, one time, a number of other black students and I were taken out of an honors math class because the teacher was like, well, these are the students that are having the most trouble in school. I was just like, what? Like, I wasn't having that much trouble in school. I guess they thought that honors algebra was just too much for me when it wasn't. Or maybe they thought that I was one of those students who couldn't grasp the material. But that's not me. Eventually, I was able to stay in the class after my parents got involved. My father had always told me that because we're black, I have to work twice as hard because the system is built for us to fail. Now, I may not agree with that 100%, but in this case, I worked hard to prove that I belong in this class.
When I was in 8th grade, my history teacher recommended me for college prep in high school, and I was like, basic, I'm good at history. Okay, I wasn't great at history in 8th grade. But like, both my older brothers had both taken honors, and I guess I had this assumption that because of what they did, or what people who looked like me, or friends I hung out with did, I obviously should be taking honors too.
Oh, I was in the CP class, and then I guess because of my grades, I got switched to an honors class, right? I got a 99.9N. I mean, I got switched to the next room, the very next room, but I could tell immediately the atmosphere was very different. Much quieter, tension, everyone was very punctual. Man, it was different. I'm telling you. And see, my friends back in CP class, they would ask me for help with the homework, but I didn't know how to do their problems because we didn't learn the same stuff at the same time. But they thought just because I was in honors that I was too white to want to help them. But they were really smart too. But I guess they never specifically just focused on school.
I mean, what if these kids were randomly divided between these two classes? Would the dynamic really provide too many challenges in the way of effective learning? Or teaching for that matter? Is this even a question of skill or ability?
I wish that a teacher would stop saying, Good question! Unless it really is a good question that is actually relevant to the subject.
Sometimes when a student asks a question, I wish I could respond by saying, that is the stupidest question. And if you had been paying attention, you would know I have answered it a million times.
Usually the question is a lame attempt by some kid to either get the teacher off topic or show off some random bit of knowledge.
However, when a student raises a somewhat random topic and references it with something like, I was reading the New York Times, or while watching Nova, even if it has nothing to do with the subject matter, I try to give positive feedback. It's so important to give students the space to express their interests and yeah, I mean, as long as it's from trustworthy sources.
I read an article in The Root that analyzed recent reactions to a very controversial decision.
All right. Can we please just focus and put our attention to today's lesson?
That's messed up.
She's right. The Root is legit.
A black culture magazine.
Started by a Harvard professor. I read it myself, actually. Maybe there is something else going on, especially if this teacher isn't respected as a trustworthy source.
So, the teacher was going around the room, handing back our final exam grades. And well, I had studied real hard, so I was confident I was gonna get a good grade. And she walks up to my desk and she hands the paper right to me and she says, the only A in my class goes to. And she puts the paper right on my desk. And everyone started clapping and cheering. I ain't gonna lie, I felt good. And then she bent down to me and she said, you did really great. And I had heard you could be no angel. This comment really bugged me. It bothered me for the rest of the day. Total buzzkill. I wasn't the only person in 8th grade throwing those banana grenades. Did she hear that my white friends were also no angels?
What do I do to keep myself calm so I don't do something that's only going to hurt me in the end?
Why should I feel
of my favorite song
discouraged?
I keep my eyes.
Why should the shadows?
Hey, what's happening, shouting? The king back. I know y'all miss him, right? Real, but dig. There's been a lot of hate going on, okay? So let me holler at you. So first of all, look at here, dog. I ain't seen me in the street with shouting, you don't know.
We're not friends. Teachers using cute put-downs do not make them look cool. You can't diss me for laughs.
Look who decided to come to class on time. Or, do my eyes deceive me? Or did Justin actually take out his homework? Or, I do believe I witnessed a miracle. Justin's hand is actually raised.
Yo, this teacher's picking on me and I'm getting tired of it. One of these days, I'm gonna clap back hard and I'm gonna shut it down.
I try to be extra welcoming to my students of color in advanced placement classes. I have empathy because they're usually walking into a sea of white faces. I've noticed that sometimes it feels like all the white students know each other from other classes and are just talking and, taking seats near one another. So, I will motion for the newcomer to sit in the front row, right by my desk, just giving them that little extra support right from the start.
So I'm walking into class with some of my friends, right? And the teacher's just already mad, waving her arms crazy and pointing to a seat in the front row. She's already on my case. It's like I'm watching you. A lot of the kids are my friends. So why can't I pick my seat like the rest of them? It's really embarrassing that the teacher's being so extra towards me, telling me where I have to sit.
When I was in college, students, no. And teachers were always making assumptions about me. I've vividly remember one time in class we were discussing the color purple, and suddenly everyone was looking directly at me as if eagerly waiting to hear my opinion on ceilings, a desperately poor black girl living in the Deep South who was beaten and raped by her father. All this attention from the white gaze made me so uncomfortable. Celia's life isn't in any way even remotely like mine. I actually grew up in a functional, joyful family with professional parents, and my thesis is on the collective works of W.H. Auden. I'm not some superhuman poverty survivor.
There was me and one other white kid in that African literature class. I'm not sure why there weren't more white kids in this class. I guess their parents and counselors just didn't encourage them to take it. Anyway, it made me think, now I will experience what it's like to be in the minority. We read this play, Dilemma of a Ghost, which discusses the difference between the African and the African-American views of the world. During that discussion, I realized that it is actually possible to have a discussion about race that does not revolve around whiteness. However, I also kind of realized that I still had all of my white privilege. Everyone just assumed I was really smart or always prepared for class discussion. Many of my classmates used slang to express their points of view. However, there was no expectation for me to code switch to sound more like them. I could just be myself, like always.
Slang? Yeah.
You know, I recently read an article on African American vernacular Black English. And even though folks want to put it down as ghetto talk, it follows the same rules as other languages. It has its own syntax and grammatical structure. So, why is it that students are expected to fix their language to fit in more professional spaces? It seems that most of these students already knew to switch, to code switch, without ever being told to do so.
People are so quick to tell you what you're doing wrong, almost like being yourself is wrong. But then the first day of theater class, the teacher walks in and says, if you are not willing to accept others for being themselves and for you to be yourself, then this is not the class for you, because this is a place of acceptance. Having a teacher say all of that outright really affected me.
I make sure I say all of that on the first day of class to my students, because those words would have made an enormous difference for me. I wish my high school had taught in a more thoughtful, intentional way about gender, about queerness. I didn't have one person who encouraged me to explore who I was. I sang in the choir, and like most choirs, the bass and tenor sections are for the male, and the alto and soprano sections are for the woman. And already there is the most apparent gender binary. My director, he would get mad at me when I would try to add songs to my repertoire that were written for a female voice. I never had the language to be able to name the fact that I was very uncomfortable when my voice coach would ask me to make my voice deeper, boomier, coded ways of saying, be more manly. I was depressed throughout high school. I now realize that my mental health issues were connected to being kind of forced to live this toxic version of maleness that I never identified with. Man overboard! You are out at ease!
I wish my teacher could understand when I said this. My limit. I am just not as physically capable as everyone else. That's not about refusing to put in good effort. I can't continue to run because I literally feel as if my heart is going to burst out of my chest, and I could die in a pool of blood right here in this gym. And you know, before, well, maybe not right here in this gym, but other gyms so possible. But no matter how hard I try, I cannot run around this track 5 times. I wish my teacher could see me in the air an object is the product of the mass and gravity, which is equate Fg equals mg equals w, I also put in good effort to memorize stuff like dates. For example, Treaty of Versailles, 1919, which ended World War I, or Apollo 11, July 20th, 1969, Buzz Aldrin took the second step on the moon to infinity and beyond.
When I walk into school, the first thing I hear is pull up your pants. Then I go to class, and the second thing I hear is
pull up your pants! A girl in class is wearing a belly shirt and shorts. And the teacher says nothing. And the belly shirt and shorts is actually against the dress code. On my way to my next class, the teacher tells me to pull up my pants. And he says it not in a bossy way, but like he has my back, looking out for me. Looking like that, people will assume you're a thug. So sick of this stop and judge policy. Oh, and another unfair, aggravating thing. It's considered wrong to make assumptions about that white girl character based on how she's dressed. And you're not all worried like she might go to a job interview or whatever in those shorts, right? She doesn't get the appropriate dress talk, right? Look, my book bag is full of books.
Check.
My homework is always done.
Check.
I'm never late for class.
Check.
AP.
Check.
Honor roll.
Check.
Make your assumptions based on all of that.
That's what I'm talking about. It makes me wonder though. Could this constant harassment over sagging pants be just another way to police black male bodies?
Yes.
Yes. So I wasn't living up to my full potential. I guess I reached a certain age where you kind of realize this. So I decided to take a very advanced science class, AP Physics. A lot of my friends weren't really receptive to the idea. They were like,
dude, how is that gonna work?
Do you even know any black scientists?
Neil deGrasse Tyson. But for real, I guess I'm just gonna have to go hard, grind mode. Every single day, I'm representing. So I'm walking into class, I got my headphones on and I'm bumping Meek Mill, trying to get pumped. And I walk in and, well, I'm not ready for this experience. Teacher was a brother.
I want my teachers to know that even though I'm one of few students of color in this AP class, I'm not burdened by this active white label. None of my friends have ever come up to me and said, oh, so now that you're taking this United States Advanced Placement History class, all of a sudden you think you're white. Like you're some kind of traitor to your race. Excuse you, but the only traitor in this class is Aaron Burr. And what does that even mean, acting white anyway? Like all of a sudden I care about my grades and wanting to go to school. I've thought all those things way before this stupid AP class. And I have the same normal anxiety as everyone else taking this class. But you know what causes me way more anxiety? Is that my opinion is the black opinion, whereas all the white kids each have their own individual opinion. Like that's what Liam thinks, and that's what Hannah thinks. But when I speak, it's not only just what Olivia thinks, it must also be what the other black kids must think. I am not here to be your experience of diversity. That is a burden.
So I'm outside eating my lunch, and this white kid I know, he comes up to me with this burning question. So there's this girl in my class, and she doesn't talk to anybody, and she's black. Do you know what that is? What? What do I even say to that, guys? He's coming up to me as the expert on black people because I'm black. What am I supposed to do? Use my black psychic connection, read her mind? I got you. Here's my handbook. It says on page 43 that black kids don't talk to white kids in the hall unless it's the 3rd day of the month.
Makes sense.
Dear Misconduct, I'm kind of confused about a situation that happened in school, and I'm wondering if it has to do with my race. I don't want to think that my teacher has any less expectations of me because I'm Haitian. I told her my SAT score, which was a 1600, and she said, wow, that's really great. Later that day, a white student came to that same teacher and told her his score, which was a 1900. And then I overheard her say, think you should take it again. I trust this teacher, which is why I'm so confused as to why she thought that my score was good and that his score was bad, even though his score was better than mine. I don't want to think that my teacher's being kind of racist. Do you think it would be rude to ask why she had such high praise for my score? Thanks for the advice. Kind of confused.
Dear kind of confused, you have every right to be confused. You are experiencing something called attributional ambiguity, which means you can't interpret why your teacher's feedback to you did not match her feedback to others. Why is she perhaps evaluating your score based on her knowledge that you're an anxious test taker, or English is not your first language? Or is she evaluating your performance based solely on your race? Receiving a reliable assessment about your performance is so crucial to your being successful in school, in your career, in your life. Since you really trust this teacher, I urge you to ask her about the different reactions she had to the SAT scores. I do not feel it would be rude of you to do so. You might even be providing your teacher with the opportunity to learn something about herself and become more self-aware about her expectations of students of color. Thank you for reaching out, and good luck. Misconduct. I was attending a conference for educators on race and justice. The afternoon session was on implicit bias, which refers to the attitudes or stereotypes that affect our actions and decisions in an unconscious manner. As we walked through the lecture room, we immediately saw the picture of a black male student in a graduation cap and gown projected on a huge screen. After taking our seats, we were told by the professor that this black male in the picture was the valedictorian of the school. Then he said, write down, quickly, without thinking, whatever just popped into your head about this valedictorian.
He probably attends an all-black school.
He probably graduated from a low-ranking academic school.
He most likely comes from some country in Africa.
These were the responses that were collected by that professor. And these responses were not based on racial animosity, but rather the unconscious stereotypical thinking that it is just about impossible for an African-American student to become a valedictorian. This exercise exposed unconscious bias that most definitely has a negative effect on the academic achievement of our students of color.
How do we normalize the brilliance of African American students?
Excellence is never an accident. It takes the vision to see that it is possible in everyone. And it is also the result of intelligent direction, sincere effort, and a lot more than that. Hashtag close the teacher expectation gap.
In a department meeting, someone will say while looking right at me, my black student is not doing their homework. I think it would be best if you called the parents. First of all, not doing your homework has nothing to do with race. So identifying the student as black is totally unnecessary. And I'm sure a white teacher doesn't say, my white student is not doing what not. Secondly, since when is not doing homework such a tense racial issue that requires a teacher of the same race to make that call? In my head I'm saying, man up, be brave, make that call by yourself. But then I would just be another black angry one. So I say nothing. I mean, none of the teachers, white teachers, have my back. I mean, they could point out that it's a total cop-out to expect me to always deal with issues with students concerning the issue of color. You know, my friend, a black friend, has a creative solution for me. In the next department meeting, I should say, my white cisgender male student is always late. Could one of you white cisgender male teachers call the parents?
In my personal experience, if I ever see me angry in school, nobody ever asked me why. I guess it was just assumed I was one of those angry black kids, always coming to school with a boulder on his shoulder. No way to fix that. However, the teachers always seemed to think that the white kids were most likely upset about something, because they kept asking them things like, what's going on? Are you okay? Now that I'm a teacher, if a student looks like they're having a bad day, I try to take them to the side. If someone's having a bad day, it's probably for a reason. And that assumption should apply to all students. We don't just magically leave our troubles at the door.
On the way home last night, my mom and I, we stopped at the grocery store to grab a few things. We grabbed our reusable bag out the trunk. We headed into the store and we started putting stuff like bread, cereal, milk, whatever, into our own bag. And then this manager guy hurries over with the cart and sort of pushes it in our direction and says we have to use it. And he just stands there. And then another manager type hurries over as if help is needed for this developing crisis. My mom is a very respectful woman. She has an executive job, and, well, she's dressed in a suit. And these two dudes are just standing there waiting for her to start taking stuff out of her bag as if she's been accused of shoplifting. I'm like, Mom, no. And I sort of push the cart away. And she tells me in her calm business-like voice that they're just doing their jobs. But I'm heated and I'm yelling. And I'm like, no, they're not just doing their job. And I point out some white fellow offenders who are also putting stuff into their own bags and just staring at this commotion. And then the manager, he points his finger right in my face and says, don't make me call the cops. Right. Where's my backup?
Did those bystanders make a move?
Circle up. Come on, come on.
I live in a place called Jefferson Park, named after Thomas Jefferson. My address should come with one of those trigger warnings everyone's talking about. And I'm laughing for real, because Thomas Jefferson was a rapist. Yeah, he raped a 14-year-old girl. So y'all say she's a slave, so it's technically not against the law, but it was still rape. She still got pregnant. Jefferson had his property whipped because he broke a teacup. You have your slave son whipped because he broke a teacup. Oh, my bad, I almost forgot. He's a man of his time.
Excuse me, Thomas Jefferson was the third president of the United States, the writer of the Declaration of Independence, the first Secretary of State. He founded the University of Virginia and the Library of Congress. He launched the Lewis and Clark expedition and made the Louisiana Purchase. He doubled the size of the U.S. territory during his presidency.
And on and on and on and on. And no disrespect to all of those worthy accomplishments. But he was a rapist who owned 600 slaves, including his own children. Don't hide his dark side in history class like it's some minor character flaw barely worth mentioning. Because black lives do matter.
I learned in my Civil Action Club about the Tulsa race riots of 1921, which was one of the worst incidents of racial violence in American history. Southern blacks seeking opportunity fled north to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they established a successful black neighborhood, which was actually called, back in the day, the Negro Wall Street. However, in one night, 35 square blocks of this successful black community burnt to the ground because a black man had been accused of raping a white woman falsely. 200 people were shot by a deputized white mob. This neighborhood was even bombed by the 101st Airborne, who dropped a load of dynamite, instantly killing 75 United States citizens. Thousands of African Americans who weren't murdered or jailed were left homeless. White rioters who rampaged through this black community, they returned to their homes, and not a single white person was brought to justice. The story should no longer be omitted from our history books. We need to learn this story in our history classes so we can acknowledge the victims and damages done to this black community. And also, pay honor and respect to the doctors, lawyers, business owners, and other professionals who had the true grit to succeed against all odds, only to be brutalized in one night.
You know, educators are trying to better understand ways to help students develop grit, which is to say, the strength to be resilient to overcome adversity. This is ironic, because grit's other meaning is a food made from mashed corn, which was a staple in the diet of enslaved African Americans. They literally had grit in their bodies. I'm thinking, what if every student were required to learn the grueling history of African Americans, starting with their being taken away from Africa and continuing to the present day mass incarceration of blacks? Wouldn't that be a way to teach students the meaning of true grit?
I teach The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison to every class, regardless of their level. I approach it each year with some trepidation, especially wondering how my white students will react to it. I don't know why I worry every year, because none of my students has ever had a problem emotionally responding to the themes in this novel. Pecola, the protagonist, is a poor black girl who believes that she is ugly because she and everyone around her bases their ideals of beauty on whiteness. And she passionately wishes for blue eyes because she believes that this will make her a person worthy of love. This obsession with blue eyes is deeply unsettling, and it generates empathy, as every student can relate to their own feelings of shame about their imperfections. It allows white students suffering from their own perfection disorders to connect with the tragic effects of internalized racism. Am I worthy of love? Exactly as I am is a question that every student struggles with in one way or another, and in various degrees of pain.
Even though our team was struggling with things on and off the field, playing soccer at Ringe is one of my favorite things ever that I've ever done in my life. But one thing that stuck out to me was the negative way we interacted with each other. Kids would make these comments, little microaggressions about the Haitian kids, the Ethiopian kids, commenting on their style of play. Oh, they don't know how to play on a team. Comments like this led to the development of cliques. If you're not all working together, you obviously can't achieve a common goal. At the end of the season, we looked back at our record and we were like, God, we're terrible. We thought back on the season and realized we were silent when people said things that were out of line. This year, my senior year, we are all paying a lot more attention to how we're relating with each other. And to be honest, we're all on the lookout for those not so subtle put-downs, and we will deal with them preemptively before barriers form. Respect for all teammates is an important value, and we have to make sure it is honored every day, in every practice, in every game. And you know what? So far it's working. We're off to a great season.
We are also grappling with the issue of establishing clear and consistent values in my robotics class. I gave my students the assignment of programming a self-driving car in an emergency situation. The car can be programmed to crash into a wall and harm the passenger, or it could crash into a crowd and harm lots of people. Without much discussion, the students immediately decided that it should be programmed to save as many people as possible. In other words, it should be designed to make decisions for the greater good. Of course, their opinions changed dramatically when the scenario had them imagine themselves. or their loved ones, or their friends as passengers in the out-of-control car. They then felt it was going to take a lot of time, effort, and even imagination to come up with a program that is both fair to the needs of the individual and fair to the needs of the most people.
If there's a will, then there's a way. There has to be a way.
The stakes are high for all of us to lead the way to close the achievement gap. But they're the highest for me because I only have one chance to be a high school student.
If all of my students are going to have the opportunity to a brilliant and excellent education that allows them to have big and bold dreams, then everyone in charge of making decisions needs to keep questioning the system. And that involves stepping back to listen and stepping out to give support, and to be willing at times to circle up for the purpose of protecting those who have less power so that their voices can be heard too.
Don't throw away our shot. Of course, we all want to.
It's challenging, and it takes hard work.
It's just too much.
And it can be scary out there in the world.
For some, a lot scarier than others.
Sometimes it's necessary to get in trouble. Good trouble. Necessary trouble that brings about change. Hashtag John Lewis.
Yet we're all hoping against all hope that the odds will ever be in our favor.
But there are no guarantees.
We can work hard to create a safe space for everyone in our community.
You step up.
We can step back.
We can circle up.
Circle up.
This, in the end, dare I say it, trumps everything!
You